Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. In the previous video, we learned about import. I hope you understood how import works. We have talked about many default and some third-party packages. I also asked you to do some work on Turtle and Tkinter. I hope you have made some projects. If you have made, you can share in our Telegram group or put in the comment in our GitHub repository. I'll look at it. Today we'll be looking at a new thing that's called handling file in Python. So suppose this is a file, okay? This file name 14 file handling file. Using Python, can we read whatever is written inside it? So that is what we'll be dealing today in Python, how we can read a file, how you can edit a file and make changes inside it, how we can create a file directly from here. So we'll be looking at this. So let's get started. First we'll be looking how we can open a file, okay? Suppose there is a file and we need to open it. So first let me create one extra file so that we know which to open. So we'll create one file. This will name this as log file, okay, for now. Log file.txt. Okay, then we'll put a container. This is a file. Let's put this is a file. So this we are creating just to so that we have a reference of which file we'll be talking about. Okay, now in Python, how you can do this, you can create one variable. Suppose this is a file and there is a keyword called open. This is a function, okay? The name of the function is open, open. Inside the open, now you need to give the path of this file. Since you are working on the same directory and the new file that we have already is in the same directory, right? You can just name the file here directly. So we'll say log file.txt. After this, now you need to put a comma and put the mode here. Mode means what do you want to do? You want to read, write. So since we have already a file, we can read the file. So we can put read here. Okay. R means read. Now the file that we have done, all the content of this file is being stored here now. If you see this file being stored here. Now whenever you do a file, right, it's always necessary that you close the file after doing. So close is one more function that is related with file. So if anytime you open a file, right, you need to close it using this function. Now what do you get in the file? Let's print this file. Print file. Now if you print this and let's run this Python 14. See, you'll be getting a text.io wrapper and you'll be getting the name and you'll be getting what is the mode you're opening it. We'll be talking with this mode a little bit detailed after some time. Just for now, this is how you open a file. You use the function called open, you use the name of the file, then you use the mode. We'll talk about mode, okay? So if you want to do open, it's like a function open, then path of file, then the mode, okay? And here mode can be of read, write, append. So we'll be talking about read, write, append. For now, read means R, okay? Read means R, write means W. It's just taking the first character of this word, and append means A. We'll look into this one by one, but for now we are looking with read. That means we have a file and we want to read the file. Now what if we want to read what is the content of this file, right? We know inside this, if you see this file, right, log file, see there is a content, right? It's called this is a file. How do you read this? To read this, you can use file.read. What you can do, you can do print file.read. If you put this function, right, and now you run this, see, you'll get all the content of this file. So if there is anything else, okay, let's edit the function. Let's edit the file now. Let's put a controller log file, and this is a file and has been edited. Now if you close this and run this once again, right, the same script, see, you'll be getting the new file. So if you want to read all the content of a file, then you can do using this. Thus file.read. This reads the complete file. Okay. Now if you want to read one line, just you want to read one line, what you can see, you can just write print file.readline. Now if you run this, both of this will print the same thing. Okay, this, if you see, both of this will print the same thing. Let's comment this out and run this. See, it will print the same thing, but it's not doing the same thing. Because why? Let me show you. Now if you open the file once again, okay, log file.txt, and put here one more line. Suppose let's put here on second line. and run this once again, see you get only this. When you do read line, right, you get only this. But if you comment this out and uncomment this print file.read, you'll be getting the complete file. See, you'll getting this line. So if you wanted to read only one line, this one, if you want to read only one line, then you can use this read line. This reads only one line. Now what if you want to read all the lines in a file? Then you can use read lines. So there is file dot read lines. Now if you print this should print you a list of all the lines. So let's print out this. Now if you run, let's comment out this also. See, it will print a list, and inside the list you will be getting all the lines separated out by comma. So this is how you can read all lines, or you can say puts all lines in a list. This puts all lines in a list, and now you can go one by one upon line and read upon them. So these are some of the basic of how files are handled in Python. Okay, so you can open a file. We'll be talking about more, but just to give you an idea like how it works for the reading. So let's say this is part of reading. Okay, then you can use file.read if you want to read the complete file. If you want to read only one line, you can use read line. And if you want to put all the lines in a list, right, so that you can read one by one all the lines and put in a for loop and use it, then you can use read lines. But there is one problem with this read lines, or there is a problem with this when you use this R, right, that is read, if the file does not exist. Suppose this file does not exist. Okay, let me delete this file, this log file. Let's delete this file. If you delete this file, now this file does not exist, right? Now if you try to run this, you'll get an error. See, file not found, no such file or directory, logfile.txt. So for reading a file, the file needs to exist. This file needs to exist when you're reading a file. So these are the properties of reading. Okay, the file needs to exist, does not create, or you can say in one line, it does not create if not exist. So this file, right, if you want to read a file using this R operator, that is reading a file, then this file needs to exist. If it does not exist, it will throw an error. Okay, so these are some of the property of how you can read a file. Now let's go to something called how you can write a file. Suppose now we don't have this file called logfile.txt, right, we just deleted it. So if you want to write a file, you can use the same open. You can do open, then we can do logfile.txt, and here the mode is W. W means write. Okay, now here the first difference that comes between read and write is, in write, right, even if this function does not, even if this file does not exist, right, it will create one file. So it creates a file if not exist. Okay, this is first. If it does not exist, it will create a file. Let's put it here in a file equals to this, and you know whenever you open a file, you need to close it. So we'll write file.close. Okay, now if you run this, first let's do an ls. Okay, ls means, I hope you understand, when you do ls, right, you get list of all the files that are part of the directory. In the terminal, when you do ls, still getting all list. There is nothing called after, it should be coming here, right, it's L, so it should come log file here. So there is no file called log file. But now if you run this, right, run this script, see, it did not print anything, but if you see here, see, you'll be getting logfile.txt. So when you do a read, if the file does not exist, it will throw an error. Okay, but on write, if it does not exist, it will create a file. Okay, now if you do ls here, see, you'll be getting something called log file. And now let's open this log file. See, it's an empty file. Now there is one more problem with it. But if the file exists, right, so this file exists. So this is one text inside this file, suppose. Let's close this. Now if you run this script one more time, see, this file existed, right, but still again you are running this W. That means if it exists, then it did not need to create a new file, right? But now if you open log file, see, there is no text. So the one more important property is, if exist, it will clear the file. This is very important. Okay, so first if the file doesn't exist, then it will create. But if the file exists, right, if the file exists, it will create the file value, file content. So if you use this w, and if the file exists, then the file, all the property will be removed from it. Earlier we saw, right, we added a text here. Now if you run this, then it cancels out. So you need to be careful when using w or write operation. That means if the file exists, it will clear out all the values of it. Now how do you add content to it? To add content, what you can do, you can do file dot write, put write, and put all your file here. It's a simple string, you can put any string here. So let's say this was written using Python. Okay, now if you run this script, and let's clear out this and open this once more, log file. See, this was written using Python. But now if you again comment this out, okay, now let me show you one more time that if it exists, it will clear. So first in the log file, you see this is the line, right? This existed in this log file.txt. If I close this, now if I run this once again, since we remove this right, so it opened this file and it closed again. This time the file existed. Now let's open one more time. See, the content is gone. So this second point, this is very important. If the file exists, will clear all the file content in it. And if you want to write anything, then you can use this file.write. So that is how write works. Okay. Now what if you wanted to write but you don't want to clear the file if it exists? Then comes our third property, that is called append. What append does, just like in list it adds content, right? Here also it will add content, it will not clear out the file when you open. But in write we saw that if the file exists, right, then it will just clear out. But in using append, it won't clear out. So does not clear the content if file exists. Okay, and how do we write it? It's the same way. You write file equal open log file.txt, and the mode is A. A means append. Okay. Now if you open a file, you need to close it. So you do f.close. Now if you write anything to the file, okay, since this open in mode, still you can use this file.write, okay, because this is how you write to a file. Now if you write, suppose let's go to our log file, okay. What is the current content? We'll see log file. Suppose this is from the past. Okay, we'll run this and save this. So now this is saved. Now if you want to write something, earlier we saw when we write something, it will just clear out all the thing and only put this thing, right? But now if you do file.write, and let's put return from Python, return using Python. Now if you run this once again, let's run this. Okay, now let's see what is printed in log file. Okay, so log file.txt, see, it's written using Python. This is from the past. So now we did not clear out, but what we saw in the difference is here. See, when we did it using write, right? So now if you run this is for write, okay, not the append part, this is for the write. If you run this once again, this will just clear out the log file completely. So let me open log file. See, it clears out the complete file and add whatever you are adding, right? This is the only thing that will get added. Whenever you open a file in write mode, it just clear out the content of a file. So that is the main difference between append and write. So it does not clear out the content if file exists. Okay. And now what if the file does not exist in the first place? So let's delete this file, log file. We'll delete this file. Now we call append. In the write we know that when the file does not exist, right, it creates a file. It creates a file if not exists. But what happens in the append? Let's uncomment this and run this once again. See, it still ran. That means append also creates the file if not exist. So creates the file if not exist. Let's see if what is written in log file text. See, this is written using Python. So these are some of the mode in which you can open, read, and write on file. So first is how to read a file. To read a file, you open the file in read mode, that is R. And to read the complete file, you do file.read. If you want to read one single line, you can do a read line. And if you want to read all the lines and put it in a list so that you can loop over the list and read one by one, then you can use read lines. Then comes our write part. For write part, if the file does not exist, right, it will clear the file. But there is one caveat to it. If the file exists, it will clear the file content completely, then it will start writing on it. But if you wanted to avoid this criteria where it will clear the file completely, then you can use this append. Append is used when you want to add extra lines to the file. So it's so that you don't have to clear the file like how write does. If you want to add extra thing, then you can use this file.write. Okay. So these are the three mode of how you can use file. Now there is one thing. Suppose when we added this line, right? So let's do once again this append and run this. So there is one more, if you don't want to open the file again and again, right, then there is one way how you can read a file directly on terminal. You can use the cat operator. You can write cat and put the file name. So it's log file, right, for us. See, it will print the whole line here, right? It will print whatever the content of this file is. Now let's do one thing. If you see this writing using Python, if I run this again, right, it does not put in the next line. If you want to put in the next line, what you can do? You can just put a line break here. We have learned previously, right, when you put /n, it will break the line. So now let's run this once again and print this line. See, now it printed in the next line. So if you wanted to go to the next line, then you can use this /n. Now let's look at a new part of it. Let's look at the position. Okay, we'll look at position. What position means is where the cursor is currently. Let's go to the file. If you see the cursor here, right, cursor is the end of the file, and now cursor is after this. So if you want to know where the cursor is currently, right, then you can use this. Then you can use this position. How do we do this? Suppose let's open a file in the read mode. Okay, file equals to open log file. So it's log file.txt. Open this in read mode. We know read mode means R. Okay, and then we need to close the file also. And now if you wanted to know where your current cursor is, right, what you can do? You can do print and use file.tell. So file.tell is a function that gives you current position where your Python file is, where the current cursor is in the Python file. Okay, let's run this. It says zeros. Why? By default, when you open a file, right, the cursor will be at this position. Though here it shows at the end, right, but when Python opens it, the cursor is always at the first position. This is a zero index based. It's like a list. Okay, list of character. So it's a zero based index. So your cursor will always be here. When you open a file in Python, right, your cursor will always be here. Now you wanted to add, suppose you want to say you wanted to add a text here called A, because this is a cat look more good in this sentence, right? So if you wanted to add this A, then there are some things you need to know before going to this. So one thing you can do is, let me show you how you can change the position. For changing position, what you can do file.seek. Seek will take you the position you want. Suppose you want to 5th position, right? And now if you do print the same thing, it will print two different things. If you run this once again, see, first it printed 0, then it printed 5. This seek will take you the position. It takes the cursor to the given position. Okay, and this gives you current position. Gives current position. Now if you wanted to edit a file, right, suppose you wanted to add an A here. One way is you can use append, but append will always add to the end of the file. We have already learned, right, in this append, when we use this, it will always add to the end of a file. Now if you want to add in the middle, right, then what you need to do, you need to replace all the content after this position. And you know, if you want to replace anything, the right is the best thing, because right clears out everything. Suppose if you give it a position, right, it will clear out after this position everything after that position. But if you use right, there is also one more thing. When you open a file in write mode, it will clear out the content also, right? But we don't want to clear a content first, because if you clear out, then we don't know what was even in the file. So for that, what you can do, there are some more way where you can open a file. So let's learn one more thing. That's it, opening file in multiple mode. I'll give an example how we achieve this. Okay, suppose this is one read. This is how we read a file, right? So when you open a file in read mode, right, you cannot write to it. So this is the basic concept. You can open a file whatever mode you define, right? Like here we define read mode, you can only achieve that thing. Suppose if I write here file.write, right? Let's write here file.write something and run this. Let's run this. See, it will throw an error, not writable. Why? Because whatever you say Python, like what is the mode you opened with, right, you can only perform this thing. Now what if you wanted to read and write something? Then you can use, there are some more way of mode. Some of them are this. You can use R plus. R plus means opens in read mode, read and write mode. So it opens the files in read mode, and you know is R plus. That means first it will try to read. So for reading, the file needs to exist or it will throw an error. Okay. Then you can use the W plus. W plus, it's a write and read mode. Read mode. And there is one more called A plus. It's append and read mode. So these are some of the multi-mode that you can open a file in. Okay. So now what we need, since we need to edit something, right? So we'll use R plus. Why we use R plus? Because we wanted to change something in middle, right? We don't want to edit to the end of the file. Since we wanted to change everything after a particular position, right? So write mode is better way. First let's do in append mode, then I'll show you why it does not work. So suppose this is an append mode. Okay. So now this will open in append and read mode. That is, we can read and write both together. Now if you write something like this, okay, first let's seek to a position. So since we wanted to edit after this, right, let's count how many characters we need to seek. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need to add at the 8th position. So what we'll do, we'll do file.seek and we'll put 8th position here. Now it went to, now we need to add something called A, right? So what we'll do, first we'll read the file, since we need the full content after that, right? So we'll say text equals file.read. Here it will read only after this position. Okay, let me show you how this works. So now let's print this text. See, it will print only cat, it will not print this is. Why? Because we moved to this position, right? So it will read only after that position. So what we need to do, we need to change this cat with a cat. So what we'll do something like this. So we'll say replacement equal, I will say a and plus text. So now what this will do, this will change the position to this, right? So now we can write f file.write and put this replacement. But there is a problem in this. Let me show you what. Now if you run this, let's read the file again. Okay, let's read the file again, print text. Now if you run this, now this did not print anything, right? But there is an operator called cat in, when you use terminal, right? And you can use the log file and see this, it printed a cat, but it printed in the next line. So that is the problem with append. Append will always add to the end of the file. So if you wanted to change something, right, complete change, like here we wanted to change the complete thing, right, we want to replace it, then you need to use the write plus. What write plus will do, it will update everything after the seek position. It will not add to the end of the file, but from the current position it will start changing everything. So let's do the same thing, but this time we'll open with W plus. Okay, so let's do like this and seek to the position. Now let's open this file and let's make the change, log file, and here let's clear out this and run this once again. Here we'll use the read write. Okay, we'll not use W plus, we'll use R plus. Why? Because you know, when we open in W plus, right, it will first write a file. That means if file exists, it will just clear out the file completely. But we don't want to clear out, we want to open a read mode so that we can write also. But when it writes, it needs to update the content after the seek position. It not need to add to the end of the file like how append works. Now if you run this, okay, let's run this once again and run this like this. Now if you see, it says this is cat, right, because it got printed. Now the Python file, so this printed because we did the cat before the edit. Okay, so before the edit this is how it looked, but now we are in the Python file, right? Let's see what happens after the edit. See, it's still printed at the end. Why? Because if you see, when you read a file, right, it again goes to the initial pointer. So we seek to 8th position. Okay, now let's see where the position is. If you do print file.tel, so I said how tel works, right? It will give the current position. Let's run this. Let's not write anything this time and run this. It's not get, it's Python. So it's in the 8th position, right? But after you read a file, let's see what is the position. So let's copy this and paste it once again here. See, it went to 38. It went to the end of the file itself. So this is the problem with how a read works. If you read a file, right, it will again go to the end of the file. So to overcome this, what you need to do, you need to seek the file once more. So what you need to do, you need to seek the file once more after reading also. So now if you put this here, right, and let's save this and comment this out. Now if you run these files once again, see, and now let's get it out. Cat means how we can see the changes in the file. See, now see, 2 times we ran it 3 times, right? That's why this got printed. But now you see this is a cat got printed. So if you wanted to edit a text or put a text in between a sentence or between a line, right, and so you need to count the number of character in it, and you need to seek the file up to that character. Then you need to read the whole file, okay, from that position. After reading, this takes the pointer to the end of file. Okay, so what you need to come back to that position once again before you replace it, right? You need to come back to this position once again, put the replacement word whatever you want and put the text in between after it, and just reuse the write operation. How the things change here is, in the append, right, it appends to the end of the list, but when using write, right, it will just update everything that comes after it. So that is how you can use this. That is how you can update a file. So let me write here, updating files. So this is how you can update a file using file operation in Python. Okay, so that was about how you can open, read, write, see the current position, and opens in multiple mode like read, write, read, append and read. And this is how you can update a file. You open a file, seek to the position you want to update, get all the text after it, put the replacement and just write it once again, and always close a file. Okay, now let's come to one more operator. Suppose you don't want to use this close. So there is a better option in Python when working with files. Since we need to create a variable like this and close this every time, right? So there is something called context manager in Python. So then this is better way to open and handle files. Okay, how you can do this? You can use one keyword called with. So this is a keyword called with. Then use this open, the same thing. Okay, open log file dot txt or whatever file you are writing with. Then you need to put a comma and put the mode, mod. Here you need to write the mode. Okay, even if you don't write, it will work, but still use the mode. Then use the operation here, same like read plus whatever you want. Suppose you want to read a file, then you need to write as. Then you need to write the variable name that you are using right here, right? You are using file equals to this, right? Then you need to put an s and name of the file. Now here you can do anything, like you can do print file, right? You can use file dot read lines. Read lines will take all the lines, and now you can do for loop for this will take lines. Okay, let's name it lines. Then you can do for line in lines, print line, and let's run this. See, it printed not the cat operation but the Python operation. See, this printed all the lines. Here if you see carefully, we did not use file.close, and I have said from the beginning itself, when you open a file you need to close. When you use this operation, right, using with, this will close the file automatically after everything is done inside this file. So whenever you open a file, you can open with using this, and this is the most preferred, recommended. Okay, this is the most recommended way how you can deal with files. You open using the with operation, use with keyword, open the same, use mode, put as so that you can name the file that you are opening, just making it as a variable as file. Then you can do all the operations that we learned above using this, and at the end you don't need to write file or close, because this will, after this finishes, right, it will close the file automatically if it's on. So there is no any memory leak or anything. so there is no corruption also to the file. Sometimes a file gets corrupted and you can't edit the file because somewhere it is opened up and it messed up something. So using this, you can just open a file, read a file and do all the operation, and you don't have to care like closing it and releasing the memory. Okay, that was it. How about how you can open a file using with keyword. So this is the most recommended way of how you can deal with files. Okay, use the with keyword, use the open as file and do everything. I think that is it about all the file that we wanted to do. There are more things you can do. You can work with binary files, you can work with CSV file. I think that will be a little bit out of what we wanted to do because that will involve some more type of file. You need to understand those files. So for now, I think you can get started using files like use txt file, use python file, or any text based file, okay, where you write something. You can use using this open, use how to change the position, how to change the position. And whenever you open a file using this, right, you need to close it. But it's always recommended open with with keyword, so that you don't have to think of is it closing properly, is it releasing memory properly. And sometimes when you need to open a file in the two or multiple mode, right, then you can use this multiple mode that we read plus, write plus, or append plus. And all of this serve different purposes. As you saw, the read one, if the file is not created, it will not create, it will throw an error. But when you're using write, it will create the file, but you need to be careful that it will wipe out all the content of a file. And if you don't want to wipe out the content but still want to edit a file, right, then you can use this append. So those are some of the properties of file handling. I hope you got this concept clearly. So this is very useful when you start writing some log file or something like this, right? Or you wanted to work with file directly using Python script, then you can use this file. I think that was it for today. Let's push it to GitHub. So there are these 3 files. So this is CSV file that I created. If you are more if you want to know about more about files, right, then you can think of how you can deal with CSV file. There are many content out there, but I will recommend that you not to go to the CSV file as of now. Do with the text file, do using Python file or any text based file. Don't go to CSV file where you have to deal with Excel type of things. Okay, let's add this and let's commit out. Git commit file handling. Okay, let's push it to GitHub. Git push origin when. Click on this link and it will load for a while. So now you can, if you go to file handling, you should see all this context here. So that was it about file handling. I hope you understood it. So the main things are how to open a file and how to close a file, what are the different mode you can open in, and what are the difference of openings. Suppose what happens when you open a read write mode, and how the file changes, like if the file exists, does not exist, how does it behave. So those are some of the things you need to take care of. And this updating files, right, this also is very important because you wanted to update a file when you open a file, right, and the best way to open a file is using this with keyword. So use this and see if you face any difficulty. If you face any difficulty, please comment down in the comment section. I'll try to help out. And that is it for today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next.